You are listening to the People Centric podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Hey, people-centric leaders, welcome to the new year. So it depends on how you're listening to these episodes or watching these episodes. We recognize some of you don't listen to these or watch these in order, but for us, it is the second day of January in 2024. So our team just got done with some time off. I think all of us took some time off away from the office. We did some holiday stuff. We probably ate a lot of things. We probably did some of those projects back home. We've got plans for the new year, all the things. And that's what we wanted to talk about is our plans for next year, to think about all of that. So we're going to do a little bit of a different spin on this because you've got our whole team with us today, which is a little bit unusual. You got a lot of us here today. Oh, we're missing Bethany.
No offense, Bethany.
No offense, Bethany.
Or Rianne. No offense to the rest of the team that isn't here.
But all the important people are here. That's what I'm trying to say. All the important people are here. So we're going to talk a little bit about when you enter into a new year, like what do you do in terms of planning? And we're going to put a little bit of a surprise spin on that. If you followed us before, and there's some past episodes where we do this, we go through what we call a people-centric success plan. And we'll drop a link here into this episode so that you can download that. For those of you who really want to sit down and go through a process of setting goals for yourself, making sure that you know what you're going to be doing next. But as we share what our goals are for this year, I think you're going to hear a little bit of balance to this. We're going to try to bring some balance to this topic of this idea that maybe you don't want to be hardcore about setting goals for yourself for this year. Maybe you just kind of want to wing it. Maybe you want to wing it. Maybe you want to take some pressure off of yourself. So it's going to be a fun episode today. We're excited to jump in. We've got our very own Matt Griswold with us, who's fresh off the road here.
Right? Heyo. Happy New Year, everybody. Or
Matt,
what might be listening to this.
Matt, what did you accomplish during your time off here?
Many things. One, I recently got into plumbing. I don't know if that's a hobby that people just like, I'm gonna try my hand at that. But I did. I've replaced 2 toilets and a leaky faucet, and I just pulled an entire vanity out and replaced a vanity, which might not sound like much to some of the people listening. But if you understand, I've never been one to take money away from the professionals in my past. Like they're professionals. Who am I to take food off of their table? Let them do it. They have the training. But you can learn anything on YouTube. And right now I'm looking out on the curb for the trash man to come pick up the old vanity because that's where it is. I'm just waiting for that. We have a new thing. And I bought a record player. Over the Christmas break. And now I'm collecting old records from my folks from the 40s. And I think I said it already, but I'm going to say it again. The reason why I bought a record player is because I found a record my dad gave me of his parents' wedding from August the 8th, 1948, on the heels of World War II. And I'm in the room listening to my grandparents get married and saying their I do's. And it was spectacular. And so now I'm all into vinyl. Taking recommendations. Although records are expensive. I tried to buy the Beastie Boys License to Ill yesterday, $30. And I was like, I need to plan ahead for that. I don't know. It seemed higher than what I thought it was going to be. But it's a great record.
I want to point out that you made fun of me for my record player.
I don't remember that.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all. But it's pretty cool. I'm on board with plumbing and vinyl. That's the change in my life.
I feel like we could do like 3 episodes on just what you said. One is just to point out that I'm sure all of our plumber friends who listened all said at the same time that's not plumbing. What you just described is not plumbing. That's just connecting stuff.
There were pipes involved. I had to make several trips to the plumber store where the professionals go and to get more stuff and advice. But yeah, there were pipes involved, water's involved. What's not plumbing about that?
Yeah. Also, you're old enough to know that if you're collecting vinyl records, that Beastie Boys License to Ill is an interesting place to start. That was more in the tape era than it was in the record era, just to throw that out there.
I know, but I mean, shoot, Diana knows this. Diana just went to see Adele. Adele's got like a double record at Walmart right now for $50 or something like that. I'm just curious if the quality, whenever I play a more modern record, is going to be different than those 40s gospel country records that I inherited from my you know what I mean? I just want to know the difference and see what it is there. So I'm going to jump in. I also would be remiss if I didn't say this. My oldest son graduated from infantry school now, and he is about to start jumping out of planes and going to airborne, trying to be a Green Beret, that guy. And so I'm super proud of him. And that also happened fairly recently in our lives. He and his wife are probably almost to report here in a couple of days. They're probably almost there now. So anyway, big life changes.
Shout out to everyone who serves their country, and also to the families who are back home as those folks go off to serve. Appreciate all that. It's not hoorah. It's what do the Rangers say, Matt? You know?
I don't know. He's not going to be a Ranger. He's going to be a Green Beret. Now, he just accomplished infantry, so he got the blue cord. The ceremony was awesome. I don't know. And if you ever go down there to Georgia, where that is, they have a National Infantry Museum, and it's like the Smithsonian. If you're into that kind of stuff, they have exhibits and awesomeness, and it's just really, really cool. So I would give a plug for that.
Love it. Love it. Sounds like a very restful holiday there. So let's go on to Stephanie. Stephanie, did you pick up any new skills over the holidays, like plumbing or anything like that?
I was already really good at plumbing, so I didn't need to go down that route.
I get it.
Yeah, you get it. But I accomplished not a lot over break, which was kind of the goal. Excuse me. I did a 1,500 piece puzzle, and I finished it and was missing 3 pieces, which either my dog or my Roomba vacuum ate. So I didn't get to actually finish it. So that was devastating. I read 2 books over the holiday, so that was great. I made pasta. I ate a lot. It was a great time.
So if you do, this kind of fits in the topic here a little bit. So you're sit down to do a 1,500 piece puzzle, right? How long does a 1,500 piece puzzle take?
Days. I spread it out across like a week of doing this puzzle, because there's only so long you can puzzle at a time. But I turned on all the Friends episodes, so I made it through like 5 seasons of Friends while doing this puzzle. So however long that many seasons of Friends is.
So I like how you measure time in episodes of Friends. I'm sure a lot of folks over the holidays can understand how you measure time by whatever episode of whatever you chose to binge watch over the last week, right? Is whatever episode it's on. But it's interesting, like when you talk about planning, I think there's something like ceremonial about what you just said about like you got this 1,500 piece puzzle. You successfully put 1,497 pieces into the right spots. You can clearly see what the picture is. I'm sure those 3 missing pictures, like I have no idea what it is. I don't know what the picture. What was the picture?
It was of Montmartre in France. So it's that little neighborhood in France, and Le Consulat restaurant. If anyone knows what I'm talking about there, all my Francophiles, woo woo. Diana's nodding her head. For the record, I'm not the only weirdo out here.
Yeah, I got it.
Amelie, that movie, if anyone's seen that, it's like that scene. And what kills me is not only am I missing those pieces, they are all like from the same section. It's like 3 in a row that I'm missing.
That's like the worst. That's the worst,
Right.
So
I did do. It's got to be some sort of bad omen for your life. I don't want to read too much into it.
By the way, thanks. That's what I was
like
hoping
walking under a ladder.
The New Year with is like a curse. After the last 3 years and living through a global pandemic, I really needed that. Thanks, Matt.
That was 0.2% of your puzzle yet to be completed. So I do want to congratulate you officially for the 99.8% of the puzzle you did accomplish. That is still success.
See, you say that, and it makes me think no, because I am an achiever-oriented person, and I want to win. I'm an Enneagram 3, and the fact that you just like quantified my failure is really rude.
Really a marathon rude. Is 26.2 miles. If you stop at 26 miles, you did not win the race, nor did you complete the race. You get no ribbon for that.
Well, no one gave me a prize for my puzzle. That's for sure. I have yet to be congratulated for finishing this puzzle.
Congratulations for almost finishing the puzzle. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it's a very relevant example to what we're talking about today, because as we set goals for the year, you're going to look at it and say, dude, there's two possibilities. You're going to hit the goals that you set, or you're not going to hit the goals that you set. So it's really tempting at that moment to say, okay, so you're either going to be successful or you're not going to be successful. And I wonder if you're 99.8% on the way there. No, you didn't finish the marathon. Maybe you don't get the ribbon. Maybe you don't get the complete puzzle. Was there joy in the puzzle, or did you feel like it was a complete waste of time at the end?
I mean, there's definitely joy in the puzzle. Like, how can there not be joy in the puzzle where you're eating snacks, you got friends reruns on, your Christmas tree is glowing? There was a ton of joy in doing the puzzle. And so, yeah, to be real, like, I mean, I don't like what Philip said still. Sorry, Philip, because I don't like to think about the idea of failing. But there was so much success there, right? Of like, this was actually a very difficult puzzle. It took me like a full week to put together. So, as proud as you can feel of yourself for finishing a puzzle is how I feel, even though I'm missing 3 pieces. It was still like a great joy, great work. Um, you know, a good time had. I don't regret doing the puzzle at all.
Yeah, and there could be a temptation if you did puzzles like that and you said, well, I didn't finish that one, but I don't want to not finish one, that you could start doing 100-piece puzzles or something like that elementary school kids do or something, right? And then you say, well, I've always been able to complete these puzzles, but they're not really very challenging and that very interesting, but I always win. So there's something about like when you set your goal, like if you set a goal, and I'm sure a lot of you are experiencing that if you're setting yourself objectives for this year, goals for yourself, do you set objectives that you're going to hit, or do you try to stretch yourselves? We do a lot of strategic planning with organizations, and that discussion came up a lot in strategic plans in fourth quarter of, do we set things that we know we're going to hit, or do we try to push? Is there a difference between, we know we're going to accomplish these are the thou shalts, for in the traction world, it's the rocks that we're going to set. These are the thou shalts. They're immovable. We have to do those, versus like stretch goals. Like, hey, could we maybe achieve this? Let's do a 3,000 piece puzzle next time, and let's see what happens, knowing that we might be missing some pieces at the end of the day. There's a risk to all of that. So it's good example. We'll dive into that. We've got Philip with us here. Philip, did you finish your last 0.2% of your holiday? And what did you accomplish here in the last couple of weeks?
My whole life, I have been waiting to arrive, just like in every part of life, right? I have not arrived, darn it. And I think this year, I was just thinking, but we've also done lots of cool things. Yeah. But to your point, I was like, I feel like there's always at least 0.2 more percent of like to dive into. No, we had a restful time. We deep cleaned the house. We caught up with a bunch of old friends that were in town. A friend of ours who's from Iran joined us for Christmas for the first time. So we drove around and looked at Christmas lights together in Roundtree, the most iconic neighborhood in Spring. It was just so beautiful, so much fun. So super rested. And it's funny, as we were all talking about resolutions and goals and things. For me, at least, the Herzog home this year, we were like, I think this is the year for us. We want to do it's like the opposite of quiet quitting, some quiet starting. That's our word maybe for next year. Like, we have some things we want to do that are cool, but we also want to just like do it in a nice way. Like, we don't have to add all the pressure, because I think we can start the year out like, I am going to get the gym membership. That's one thing I am going to do. It's close to my house. I wanted to do it before New Year, so it wasn't technically like a New Year's resolution. I didn't buy the pass yet because they wanted my bank account information. I'm not going to give that to them online, all that stuff, yada, yada. So I'm going to go in person with my credit card after the New Year. So I missed that goal already. So maybe I should have just started with a puzzle, because I'm already more than 0.2% behind. That was a lot of words to say. I'm glad to be here.
That's I like that you're doing the gym membership, because I think a lot of folks do. I don't know if I've heard a lot of people do a gym membership this time of year. Back in the days when I used to work out regularly, I've fallen off of that wagon pretty hard and decided not to pick it up, because this is a terrible time of year to pick it back up, because everybody does that and it's really crowded at the gym. It's the only time where I become a demotivational speaker, when I'm at the gym, because I'll be working out next to the person next to me, and I'll be like, so you're doing this as a New Year's resolution? I wonder how long this is going to last. And really, the only reason I'm doing that is because I don't want to have to wait for the next treadmill. I want to be able to have the equipment ready for me to be able to work on that. So I'll just have to confess to everybody that I'm kind of a horrible person when it comes to all that stuff. But sounds like you got a lot accomplished, Philip. Good job.
Yeah. So Philip, you're going to love your gym membership. We're really happy for you. Yeah.
As long as I don't go to that gym, I'm encouraging you to keep doing it.
Yeah. Don't tell Don which gym it is. Just keep that to yourself.
Just don't go to the one I go to.
I'm going to have to be there my goal is 6 a.m. That's the thing, to beat those yuppies that are like me also, who are going to get there at 6:15 a.m. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, A+ for using the word yuppie on the second day of the year. That's, I don't know how many other times you'll get to use that word. Very good. All right. So Diana is with us here. Diana, you told a good story. I know like we talk about goals and I've asked everybody else, like, what have you accomplished throughout the course of the year? And I also know that you're a processor. So I went last for you. And so you know what the question is coming, but I'm also going to switch gears completely on you and
Right.
talk a little bit about like, you're kind of a goal setter, goal achiever kind of person, right? And has that gotten you into trouble in the past?
Okay, well, yeah, yes, obviously you're asking the question. The answer is yes. Myself and my husband are like huge goal setters, and I'm telling you, if we speak it, we accomplish it. There's no like middle ground for us. There is no losing by 0.2%. We literally ran the marathon all the way through. We finished it, got the medals. Like we're we're the people that everyone hates because we are doing that stuff. We do it. When we say we're going to go to the gym 3 times a week, we go 3 times a week, whether we're sick, whether we're dying, whether somebody else died, like we make it happen. So we are the achievers. This year well, actually every year we take some time and we like reflect back on the year before and what goals we accomplished, all of them. And then we do a financial plan so we know how much money we have to accomplish the next set of goals. We do capital planning so we know for the big purchases. And then we have 9 different categories in which we build plans for and build goals for. And we did do that this year. We do that every year. But what Dawn is talking about is the first year that we did our like people centric planning thing. And I walked through it. I made all these big goals and it was like, they were big goals. I was like, I'm going to get my MBA. It wasn't like build a puzzle. Just poking at Stephanie and
Wow.
right now.
Wow. Okay.
I love you, Stephanie. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, you better.
But anyway, I was like, I'm gonna do leadership Springfield and I'm gonna get my master's. And I made all these big goals and I did them and I was exhausted. And so the next year, I think I was like, just really little easy goals because I just did too much. And so I'm the person that has to like check myself and make sure that I'm not over goaling it because it is exhausting and you don't want to feel like that failure. And maybe you need to learn to when to give yourself some grace and be like, that's a great goal, but maybe next year, let's spread this stuff out. So yeah, I have learned the hard way that goals can be great and also really terrible.
Goals can be crushing, right? So
Yeah.
that's what our message is for all of you listening is don't set goals. Goals are dumb. Just
Yeah. You can
just,
crush goals or they can crush you,
just live your life. Just do your things. Yeah. So I mean, one of the approaches that we've even taken, and I'll tell you what, we did a mastermind, I think, where we even did this in addition to the success plan, where we talked about what roles do you play in your life. And I remember doing this and we had everybody list all of the roles that you play in your life. So if you sit there and you think about it, you're like, okay, well, I'm an employee. And so you could probably list 10 roles within just that of the company and the team that you work with. And then you could probably list all the personal roles. I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm an uncle, and you start listing all those things. And then you go, I'm a neighbor and I'm a customer and you start like, we would have people like list all of those roles and then say, what are you doing well in those roles and what could you be doing better? And I remember having this sheet of paper and having to like turn the page on it because I was listing all of these different roles I had and all these things I do really well. And I'm like, man, I should call my mom more. I should talk to my brother more. I should be a better friend. We should go out and do this more. I should be doing this more. And pretty soon you start listing all of this stuff. And as Diana said, all that stuff can become really crushing. And one of the things that I think has been a theme since the pandemic, and I think it has spun off from the pandemic, and some of it's built awareness around, and all that is around this idea of mental health and just taking care of ourselves. And is there a dark side to goal setting? Is there something where we set goals too heavily and we become too obsessed with them and we just forget to just live and be who we are? Is that a problem? Everybody nodded because you just don't know how a
I think
podcast
we
works.
all
Everybody.
and I think we've all heard how toxic that can be and how, when people are always saying you have to accomplish your goals and go after your goals and get an accountability buddy and don't fail. And bring your best self to work every single day and those types of things, sometimes you have to stop and be like, what am I doing it for? And is this still what I want? And what other things am I letting go of to accomplish these things? And it's all a balance. And I think the pandemic helped everyone kind of reshift that brain a little bit. I know it did for me. And just sort of say, you know what, the most important things in life are the things that are happening in front of me. And I need to be in the moment and present and share kindness and love and make sure those are the forefront and not these like world domination goals, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's funny because guys, I was in that boat pre-pandemic. I don't know what you guys are doing, but that was what I want to. I want to live in the moment and make some memories, for crying out loud. That's what I want to do. It strikes me. There's a couple of different videos, and there is one that was pre-pandemic, and you guys might have seen this because the kid went viral. He won valedictorian for his high school class. Did you see that? And he gave his speech in front of all these people. You can find it on YouTube, and he's being congratulated for valedictorian, and he was like, "And I worked hard, and I sacrificed," and he basically says, and if I could do it all over again, I would not be your valedictorian because I missed out on all of these other cool things with my friends that I could have been doing. And I think, dang, that kid's got a golden key to life right there already. And he's this high school kid. I watched a video last night while I was watching the college football playoff, and it was kind of a sad, solemn commercial because it was a voiceover of like a lake and like the woods, and it was like a lady at work recently passed away and her desk sits empty, along with a mountain of PTO that she had that she never was able to use, and a 401k that she was scrimping and saving for that she'll never get a cent of. And it basically was talking about all of these things, and it caught my attention, and I started watching it. And it was, sometimes, and this is just me because I know there's other people that are listening that probably are like me, right? And maybe just a few of them. I get it, Diana. But there's people like me as well that are going, I sometimes you miss the forest for the trees because you don't see what it is that's in front of you. Golly, is that really that big of a deal? Is that really that important? What else could I be doing with that time? I'll be transparent with you. One of the things that's heaviest on my mind is trying to figure out how many times I can get to my son as he's stationed there before he has to get deployed. That's what I want to do. Yeah. I'm going to go speak and I'm going to go sell stuff and yeah, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to do that. And you know what? I'm good at that too. But I'm looking for those other moments where I get to experience life and my family throughout the year instead of that. Just honest. So I don't know if we have to have a meeting now later about that, but that's the first time you guys heard that.
Well,
anyway.
yeah, Matt's job is not important to him, guys. So I'm just kidding. No, Matt, I agree with everything that you just said. And I think a piece that I would add to that, maybe from I really struggle with people pleasing tendencies, have my whole life. And so I think a lot of people are there too. And one great thing that my therapist does for me is when I start shoulding myself, I should do this, I should do that, or I say, well, I want to do this. The most powerful question she'll ask me is why? Like, why would you do that? And I need you to actually lay it out for me. And I think a lot of times we get really caught up in setting goals to feel and look impressive. That we've got to set these big goals. We've got to prove that we're doing something here, right? And even to the point of the video, I saw that same video, Matt, where it was like, yeah, the woman died and all this was left behind and they filled her job within a week. And I think a lot of times we spend a lot of mental and emotional and sometimes even physical energy trying to set these goals, thinking that it's really going to move us forward. And I'm doing air quotes for that, like move us forward. We're going to quote unquote arrive. It will impress other people. And if you can let go of some of that and saying okay, if this is the place that I'm in this year, because I've struggled with this in the past of trying to set all these big, amazing goals. And then I find that I'm really only doing it so I can tell other people about it or I can post about it and seem impressive. They're like, oh, look at all these things that I did. But really, it's a self-betrayal at the end of the day because I'm not doing the things that really mean the most to me or matter to me. And so I think it's setting goals, if you're going to do that, challenge yourself. Why would this be my goal? And why would I do this? And who do I care sees that I did this thing or didn't do that thing, and really challenging yourselves in that way. I was joking with our team before we jumped on this that my 2 words for the year are learn and nope. And those seem conflicting in some ways, but for me it's like the nope is like I'm going to like stop saying yes to things that I don't really want to do because I feel like, oh well, they need me, quote unquote, or they need help with this and I could help them, and I'm the only one who could do this, or I've got to use this gift, or I've got to do this thing, and like nope, I don't. I have to do the things that are meaningful, important to me, the things that I feel passionate about. And the other one is learn, which in some ways is a little bit of a safe goal, but a challenging one for me. It's like spend a year just learning for the sake of learning versus like you're learning to get a degree, or you're learning to accomplish this or that, or get the certification, or do those things, which those are all great and wonderful things. And I do aspire to some of those things, but it's also just like learn to learn, like learn to grow and learn more about the world, and like read things that you're interested in for no point, like write no papers, get no degrees, do none of those things. Nope. You're just going to learn.
I like what you just did. I think that's a good thing that we could recommend is like have a defining word for the year. We talk a lot about core values in organizations and how those drive decision making. And your 2 words, which you clearly stated and then defined, are now driving a lot of your decision making for the year, which I think is like a great way to do that. My husband and I said our word of the year is fun because we generally are those like hyper driven, hyper focused, no fun people, responsible human beings that are just like overly uptight about everything. So our year this year, our word is fun. And we defined what that meant for us, and we built some cool goals around that word intentionally. And so I think that might be a way to do it and guide you without setting quote unquote smart goals and forcing yourself into some things.
So what you're kind of stating here is instead of, and Philip, I'll go back to you next here, but instead of setting goals for yourself, some very specific goals, you're setting almost like a set of values for yourself. Like this is the value or the theme of the year that's going to help you make decisions along the way, but it's a little bit more free flowing, right?
Yeah, yeah. Because I'm not a business. Like I'm not a machine. I'm not a business as a human being. So I think there's like for me this distinction between like setting goals within your business or company of like, yeah, like we need to hit these specific metrics to like keep the ship running, right? Versus like the goals I set for myself. Like I think I've just made a big distinction between those two things in my life and as I age, of like the goals for me as a human being need to be more thematic, versus like you're going to accomplish these 15 to 20 hyper specific things, because I'm not a machine. I am imperfect. They're like I can't achieve perfection. I can't do all of those things consistently all the time.
Yeah. So it's interesting because we always talk about how do you impact culture of an organization? How do you impact leaders within an organization? How do you make them more people centric, which requires people to be empowered and aligned? So when you think about the word aligned, you think about you're all going towards something, towards some kind of the location. We just, as a team, completed a strategic planning process. We haven't actually totally completed it yet because we got to dive into the financial part of it still. But we're working towards like what are our goals for next year. So we are setting those goals. And Seven, like you said, it's a little bit different as a company versus individuals. But that company is that's also spreading out goals to us individually as we perform here. Is that a wrong thing? Is there a balance that we can find? Or are we saying don't do goals now? What are we saying?
Yes, give up completely, become a potato,
Yeah.
live on your couch, live the dream. No. I mean, I think we're saying like, and everyone else can chime in, but like have goals, but like be realistic, be practical. And I think for me, the big one is understand why you would do that. Because you could set any goal you want. Like I could set the goal to say, I'm going to be the president in 4 years. Like, but will that be fulfilling to me? Is that the lifestyle that I want? Is that a realistic and practical goal? Like, so think about like, why would we set that goal? Like, and I think that's when we hear from employees a lot, is you hear from the CEO, well, we're going to grow, we're going to go, we're going to grow, we're going to grow as a company, we're going to expand into new markets, we're going to get more customers and clients and patients. And a lot of times we'll hear people, somebody at the back of the room really kind of quietly asking the question, like, why would we grow? And so I think it's like, if you're setting goals for your business or for yourself, question the why. And is that like the business and the lifestyle that you want next year?
Yeah, and if we're kind of equating it to business, I think a lot of businesses are also adaptable and flexible with those goals, right? There are times where there is a global pandemic, and then the goals that you made in January no longer fit in April. So you make new goals. And I think we have to remember that that's possible. That happens. If you are in the midst of everything and something changes in your life changes, be adaptable, be flexible, and give yourself grace to do those things, right? It's not all about purposefully always going after the same goals, even if there is something catastrophic or something changes or your why changes. And I think it's important to remember that those things are movable. It's a movable target.
This strikes me too as we help organizations with, we haven't done this. I haven't done this. I'm sure you guys have done this, but with individual development plans and then quarterly check-ins. And this is something that we help with organizations install. But then we have the annual performance evaluation. The annual performance evaluation. And we hear from organizations where a lot of people are going, they're going, this is a rigid format, or I feel like the thing that they have done to me puts me in a box to where now I have to be super selective. And we have a version of this, and Diana, honestly, you might be able to talk better to this. I haven't seen it for a while, but I know we have a better version of this where it talks about, well, what was the quality of work? What was the quantity of work? Like, quit being so rigid with the specs that you're trying to throw out there and putting people in a box, but like, did they do good work? Did they do a good amount of good work? Like, sometimes organizations have a tendency to overthink that. And Stephanie, I like how you said, I am not a business myself. I am not an organization. And so maybe part of this is the recognition for an organization to recognize, listen, it's great to have your overarching goals. I keep wanting to differentiate this. We're not saying don't plan. To me, there's a line there between, we should make a plan, right? But the other side of that is, I think people go into the setting the goals and maybe even personally more so, but rigid, the word rigid comes to mind because the goal setting process is rigid. We're not saying don't have a plan. Yeah, we should probably plan, right? We should plan for this. We should maybe plan for that. But that's, to me, is different than the goal setting. And sometimes organizations are setting their managers up for failure because they're creating a system or a process that's so rigid. Like, you didn't do this, you didn't hit this mark, well, you failed. But again, the forest for the trees, the organization is not looking at all the other wonderful things that did happen. Or the manager, because of the system that they have in place, can't look that way because you're forcing me to only look this way. And it's leaving a lot of meat on the bone, so to speak, there, and really kind of handcuffing their ability to be able to manage the team that you're trusting them to manage in the first place. And so, again, not saying don't plan. We should plan. But when it comes to the rigidity of the goal setting, I think you probably need to take a step back and maybe look at that a little more holistically.
I'm very excited. This is one of those inspirational puns. So, first pun of 2024. But I think it's the idea of like, are you goaling with the flow or flowing with the goal? But I think that's one piece that's different maybe between how the Herzog's goal plan versus Diana and Jimmy. We probably are not, we don't hold it so tight, just kind of the nature of how we do it. And I think to your point, Matt, too, there's a lot of different ways people can goal plan and goal set. And so if you're rigid about it, you probably are not going to have great success if you're trying to do it with a team. But to the other end too, if you don't check it along the way, if it's just something that only you know and nobody else knows, which is why we talk about strategic planning with partners. And what Diana had said that is so poignant, which we're all agreeing with, if you can have your goal for the year so specific that it's a word or a couple of words, and you and your team have the big idea that you know what those words are, I think that'll just build in huge success, whether you're planning for you, whether you're planning for your household, whether it's a whole organization. And I think that adds clarity and purpose. So whether you are the machine in the organization or just the person, you're like, hey, I know at least a little bit more which way we're going and what direction we're taking. I think it's not an easy thing to do because, again, you You start the year, and the reason all these resolutions fall apart is because then life happens. But to have a team around you where you're like, you know what, people want to build something, people want to be a part of something, and I think that's the beauty of a goal. Like you're giving yourselves permission of all the options. We can go and create this thing we've chosen to go and do in that direction, and that's important.
Let me add two more things here. One of those comes from a conference talk that we give quite a bit, but it's talking about creating this people-centric culture. And we go around the room and we ask people, how many of you work for the money? How many of you work so you don't disappoint people? You guys know this part. How many of you work, and the last one says inertia. How many of you work because of inertia? And only like a couple of people raise their hand. And Don likes to point out like, okay, seriously, wait a second. Thanks for those two people for being honest. The rest of you really had business conversations with yourself this morning. Like, do I really want to continue to do this with my life, right? Or am I just going because my calendar said I had to be here, or my calendar said I had to be there, right? And you showed up at work. I like to tell everybody this. You showed up at work. You might not even know how you got there, right? But you arrived in the parking lot. You have yourself a good cry. Go inside, take on the day. That's what you do, right? That's when we're working out of inertia. But I think if we're not having those regular check-ins, kind of like what Philip was just talking about there, if we're not having those regular check-ins, then you're not having that conversation with yourself going, do I still want to do this? Is this still impactful to me? Is this still valuable if I hit this or not? Right? I mean, maybe one of the most impactful things you can say to yourself is, I don't want to do that anymore. I would rather do this. I don't want to do that. I would rather do this. And some of us, and Diana, I don't know if this is you, or Stephanie might have been her, but I don't know if this is, you can't peel yourself off of the goal because nope, you already said you're doing it and you're going to stick to it and be miserable, right? Maybe the best thing you could do is say, I don't want to do that anymore. Diana, am I close on that at all?
Oh yeah, I'm 100% the person who is like, I said it, so I have to do it. I spoke it. I told others I was going after this, and so now I must get there, right?
Yeah.
At the detriment of everything else, I must get there. And I think in the past few years, I've realized that like, man, there are so many things outside my control. There's so many better ways to handle the upset and the disrupt. There's so many other things to just say that isn't important or that doesn't matter anymore, or
Right.
give yourself grace to say no. I love Stephanie being like, my word is nope, because I feel like there are so many of us who are ingrained in this like hustle culture. I don't even know what to call it really, but I think that taking the time to have the space to do the things that aren't on your goals will help you grow more sometimes than forcing yourself to do the goals.
If you're a manager of a team, just recognize this. Your people want to help you win. Your people want to help you succeed. The more heavy-handed you come down with goals, or you will do this, they're probably going to work less hard for you. They're probably going to, they want to work for you and they want to help you succeed. They want to do well. Everybody wants to wake up and do good at their job, right? And they're much more likely to do that if they understand that you value them as a person instead of just the person that's trying to hit that goal for them because they said that's what you needed to do. In fact, if you ask them to set goals for themselves, they might even be more aggressive than the ones that you would give them if you weren't dictating them for them. And so just manage the person. Don't manage the number. Don't manage the thing. Manage the person. And then that person will do their best to take care of you too. The other thing that I would say, and we can kind of move towards wrap up, but Diana, this started with that whole thing that we typically do in January. There's a form that we do. We've done it several times. Many people listening maybe have sat through a session like that. And we've just spent a lot of our time talking about the goals and the steps maybe to accomplish the goals and what's your process for doing that. And we've been kind of talking about, but we haven't labeled it. And it's something else on that form. And I think we're all alluding to this, but there's a section on our form which kind of makes our goal setting process a little different than others that you might have gone through. And it's called fuel. The fuel is, what is it that drives you as a person to want to even continue to do the things that you said you wanted to do in the first place? And a lot of the things, it sounds like, that we have been talking about here, whether it was, me trying to make way to go see my son, or family time is important. Like to me, that's what drives me. That's what drives me to want to succeed is my family. And I think, for each of us, maybe that's a little bit different, but for you as a person, I would encourage you got to find your fuel. What is that thing that drives you, that refreshes you to maybe want to accomplish some of the things that you have in front of you in the first place? If you are only looking at those three objectives, and they might you might look at them to a fault. Diana, he said something, I'm going to butcher it, so I'm not going to try it. But you said it earlier, like you can they'll either work for you or they'll crush you. And however you said that, for some of you looking at those goals, and it might just become overwhelming, or you feel defeated midway through the year because you haven't accomplished them yet. And dang it, you should have, and because you're just worried about that. I would encourage you to look at that fuel piece there as well to make sure that you are feeding your life and soul the things that it needs to be fed so you can accomplish those wonderful things that you want to accomplish. And maybe have that business conversation with yourself. Is this still what drives me? Is this still what I want to do? At the end of the day, I look at myself in the mirror. Am I still satisfied with the work that I'm doing and the person that I am and the stuff that I'm accomplishing? And I think that's impactful. So don't forget that fuel piece too. I don't know if you guys would add to that or not, but
I love that. I've been recently saying that as companies use the term human resources, we're only looking at humans as resources. We've stopped looking at them as humans. And so I love that Stephanie today said, I am not a machine, right? And so when we're part of a machine, it's important for the people who are leading that bigger machine to realize that these are humans. We are all human. We are all waking up and wanting to be good at our jobs and wanting to give our best, but some days we don't have the best to give. And so I think we have to remember that everyone needs fuel, everyone needs grace, everyone needs moments of rest, and we can't just drive 100% of the time.
This week when we had some time off, there was a group of old friends. We've known each other for years. We all live all over the country. Some are starting families, finishing doctorates, all this stuff. We're together, and it came up the Atomic Habits book. And it was hilarious because everyone had a thought and an opinion about Atomic Habits. And every time when someone was finished talking about it, we would say, have you read the book? Everyone out of 10 people who all talked about this book for like 15 minutes, everyone said, oh no, I haven't read the book though. I haven't read the book. No one had read the book because it's just out there. There's podcasts, there's all these things, right? And it was funny. We all made the joke, that should be our next thing. We shall read this book together. And we won't. No one followed up with that. I would execute it, but they're not invested, I can tell. So I might read the book, I might not. But all that to say, it's this idea, what the main thing we're talking about, is adding those small changes to this bigger thing you want to do, whatever it is. And Diana, you mentioned, and you're always so good to talk about human beings and how we treat them. Like, I think the easy things, and Matt, to your point, you can have profit goals, you can have growth goals. I think like the people-centric approach too is just in the middle of all this. Our goals, are they helpful? Are they beneficial? Are they well thought out, strategic, all those things, but also in the middle of anything you do, I think just like the kindness that can come, like leading well and being well in that, you can attach that to whatever your goal is, whether it's like the biggest thing personally or being a part of this big machine. So for us, that's one thing too. I was like, oh, just like inject kindness, not which I think can be the idea of like progressive direction forward. But to like help people be better. That can be a lot of different things. So kind of ooey gooey, but that's how I like it to end.
Oh, I love that. Nobody, at work, nobody's going to care about your job more than you care about your job. At home, nobody's going to care about your life more than you care about your life.
Yeah.
All right. Nobody is going to, and not to say that they don't care. It's just, they don't see it the way that you do. And I say that for everybody, right? You care about the things that you care about. Nobody else is going to care about those things as much as you are going to care about that thing. And so you kind of have to look internally and say, are these the things that I want to hold on tight to? Or are these not the things that I want to hold on tight to? And so I do, you said ooey gooey, but I also think it's kind of liberating and refreshing at the same time. Like, I keep saying it, but at the end of the day, it's just you. It's just you. Now you are a part of a team, and at work we have to also consider that. And I know everybody's doing their best for their team and they want to succeed. But do what it is that drives you to want to be awesome. That's what I'm encouraging you to do. So I think we'll wrap up there, unless you guys, Diana, Philip, and just for the people behind the scenes, Don crashed. He's gone. Stephanie had another call. She's gone. We're down to 3. I don't know if we should just keep going and just see who the last person standing is right now. The longest podcast ever.
It will be me. I will be the last person.
Oh yeah. No, we just talked about that. That can be a toxic trait.
No, Diana. I'm gonna go.
I'll drop out 0.2% before Diana does, but she will win.
Right. Hey, it's good to be back. It is a new year, new us, new year, new you. 2024 is going to be a great year. We're just going to go ahead and speak that into existence right now. 2024 is going to be a great year. Whatever it is that that you are, whatever it is that you're doing, look for your fuel, look inside yourself, have a conversation with yourself, be honest, man, and go do the thing that drives you to want to be awesome. That is what I would encourage you to do. So we all love you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the People Centric podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and lead well.